The motivated sequence is just one way of persuasion. Now, we know last week we had an assignment, and what I had you do is look up these theories of persuasion, and then you read them, and then you wrote a summary of them. Now, on that list, and some of you did it, on that list is the motivated sequence. And the motivated sequence is the model for persuasion that I've chosen to use for this assignment. And what I want to do here is explain to you exactly the philosophy behind the motivated sequence and how we're going to apply it. All right, so the first thing we have to know about persuasion is that there's three ways to persuade, and they're called proposition of fact, proposition of value, and proposition of policy. And in the motivated sequence, we're kind of limiting the way I'm using the motivated sequence, and the way I'm asking you to use the motivated sequence is to ask for action today. All right, when you're asking for somebody for action today, that's the proposition of policy. If you're talking about something where one thing is better than something else, having a dog as a pet versus a cat, or if you're talking about grilling meat is better than smoking meat. I think I got that backwards, but anyway, one of your classmates has that as a topic. But if you're doing that, that's called a proposition of value, because now you're looking at what you value, what you think is better than something else. And that's how a proposition of value is determined, is by what is better, something is better or not better than something else, kind of a comparison thing. We're not doing comparison speeches, all right? So we're not doing one thing over another, or why one thing is better than something else. Why is it better to cook your toast your bread in a toaster versus an oven? We're not doing anything of those kind of comparisons, all right? So pick one thing that you want. For example, one of your classmates did have, smoking meat versus grilling meat. And that's not how we can frame it. That becomes a proposition of value. Now, if we say you should smoke your meat on a grill, now that becomes a proposition of policy, because we're asking the audience to do something. And that's the distinction between the two. We're asking the audience to do something. We're not trying to convince them something is better or something that should be done. A couple people want to do things like home ec should be taught in the classroom. Well, that's fine to talk about that, but that's more of a proposition of value. You value home ec being taught, and other people might not. However, what does that do for us as the audience? We're trying to get the audience to action. So the audience is sitting in there, they're listening to you talk about why home ec should be taught, but what can we do about it? Well, I can't do anything about it, or what can I? So if you were to do that, here's, that you should sign this petition to put home ec back in the schools. Well, now you're talking about proposition of policy, all right? So that's where we are there. So when you're picking your topics, or I'm kind of going over on grading them, but and telling you what's good or bad about them, but it's mostly here. So as we're using the motivated sequence, you have to do a proposition of policy. We're trying to get the audience to action today. All right, if we're doing some of the other ones, like these comparison proposition of value, then we'd use a different model. If we're doing a proposition of fact, where something is or is not, it is raining out or it's not raining out, then we would do a different model again. Or we would use the motivated sequence in a different way. The author of the motivated sequence, Alan Monroe, he wrote it back in the 1930s, and he suggests that you could use the motivated sequence or part of the motivated sequence for any kind of a speech. And he's right. I've read a couple of his books. I read his original manuscript, and he does talk about that as being original in there. So I'll leave it at that for now. And go ahead, so you know why we're picking the topics the way we are. What I'm going to do from here is do a series of little 3-minute videos, and I'm going to explain each and every step inside the motivated sequence for you. All right? All right, good luck on the speech. They'll be fun to watch.